Hey folks, Eric Bray, Focus Fishing Guide Service. Got my boy Phil Stone with me. We are going to give you the Table Rock Lake Fishing Report. As far as our lake level is concerned, we are at 915.35, somewhere right in there. Getting her close to normal pool. They have slowed the generation down quite a bit. They're only running 2 units, but it's 24/7, so it does still have the shad all strung out and making the deep bite pretty tough. As far as our water temperature, I mean, Phil, you were on Table Rock yesterday. What did you see for water temperature?
Most of the lake is still in that 46, 47 degree. We ran up Long Creek a little ways and saw some 48 degree water, but most of the water's still in that mid to upper 40 range.
So really, even with all this cold weather that we've had, it hasn't dropped the lake temperature much. And unfortunately, what that does is that puts us in these doldrums like we've had the last few years, where the water kind of gets around that 45, 46 range, and it really, I don't want to say it stagnates it, but it really slows down how the fish are biting. You can still catch them. We're still catching a few, but the bite is definitely tougher than it was, say, 2-3 weeks ago. Part of that is the amount of current they're running in, but part of it is we've kind of hit that stagnation period where you've got to find shad, you got to find running water, you know, water coming in the backs, or you've got to take advantage of the current and go up into the creeks a ways, go up into Long Creek like Phil did yesterday, or go up into the Kings River, or even way up the James, to where you've actually got some flowing water and it's got the fish moving a little bit more, and maybe a little bit cooler or even a little bit warmer water. But it's going to be tough for a little while till we get this water temperature to change. But if you guys are coming down, say you're going to fish the lower end of the lake, I did a couple trips last week. Phil did a couple of trips last week. I fished one day on the lower end. Phil fished one day on the lower end. As far as the deep bite goes, the deep bite's not gotten any better, guys. It really hasn't. You know, 3 weeks ago we were talking about catching them on a spoon, the scuba spoon, and catching them on the Rapala jigging Rap, but you can still catch them. We caught them on Friday on it, but you really got to work hard to get those bites. That's not been the best bite by far. Most of the fish we are catching are in treetops, and they're a little bit shallower than they were before. They're in that, I'm going to say, overall depth of 48 to 60 in the tops of trees that top out about 35, but they're hard to coax into biting. I mean, you were out there yesterday.
It was brutally painful. We sat and watched fish on the graph for the first hour or so, and they'll come up and look at the spoon, or we were dropping a Damiki rig, and they'll come up and check it out. But, you know, and eventually those fish will bite, but who wants to sit out there and
you really got to commit to them, you know. And on Friday we caught them deep. We didn't have a great day. We caught a few fish, several fish actually, but you know, you've got to commit to them. And the other thing is, if you're gonna fish deep, you're gonna want to stay on those fish. Yeah. You can't just fish for 5 or 10 minutes and say, well, these guys aren't biting, and leave them, because that's all you'll do all day. If you're gonna fish deep right now, you got to commit to it, and you've got to stay on a group of fish until you get a couple of them to bite, and then they'll turn on and you'll catch a few more. The better bite by far is definitely going to be on a stick bait. Been throwing the Megabass Vision 110 and throwing the Spromix stick. Rocky points, you know, channel swing type points, where it goes from the bigger rock down to the smaller rock. You get a windy day. It's kind of windy today. Of course, we're on Bull Shoals, so we're cheating. But you know, you get on one of those windy channel swing or windy banks. It's got that bigger rock on it. I've been catching several on a stick bait down on the lower end of the lake. I mean, did you guys get to throw stick bait much yesterday?
We didn't very much. I'll tell you, one of the good things that I did see yesterday is we ended up throwing a swim bait a little bit. Got into a little school of white bass, which that's typical right now. Yep. They are in the first stages of thinking about moving back in those creeks, and thinking about moving back there right now. But these nice days like this, we caught a few white bass in 12 foot of water, you know. So
were you guys throwing a Kitech?
Kitech
2.8, 3.3? What size were you guys throwing?
It was the smaller, the 2.8,
okay.
And on a just quarter ounce jig head, and
cool.
And You know, the crazy thing was you really had to move it slow, and these fish are lethargic right now. They're not wanting to do much, but you know, we saw some schools of them, caught a few, so it's that time of the year. It won't be long.
Yeah. And the other bite that's working well down on the dam area is a jig. You know, Jewel Pro Spider jig. I'm a broken record, and you know, the same colors: Okeechobee blue, green pumpkin candy, matched with a J-tail, matched with a speed crawler, matched with a beaver. Whatever you want to put as a trailer. You get a day like today where it's windy and warm, and those fish are a little bit more active, especially when they're shallow. I like to throw the speed craw. Most of the fish you're going to catch when you've got a day like today are going to be in that 15 to 20 foot range. They're not up shallow yet. I mean, it feels great to us. It's 70 some degrees right now, but you know, the water's still 46, 47, 48 degrees, so it's still cold. They're not going to be chasing like crazy, so don't necessarily have to fish slow, but you want to make sure you're fishing thorough and working a spot over. Same sort of spots: rocky banks, rocky points, channel swing type stuff. That's where you're going to find these fish, and most of your bites aren't going to be a real hard jig bite like you get in the spring or even in the summer. Most of it's just going to, the bait's going to get mushy. You know, you'll pull it off of a rock and it just won't hit the bottom. Yeah. And that's where you're going to, that's the bite you're going to feel. It's not going to be a hard thump like you're used to having in the spring and summer.
The bass, and the white bass yesterday on that swim bait, it was, you know, not your typical white bass bite, not your typical bass bite. It was, you're retrieving it back and it just loaded up all of a sudden, you know. So they're still cold, but they're fish. They got to move up there and eat. So
they got to eat.
Yeah.
They got to eat. It's biologically imperative for them to eat or they'll die.
Yep.
But they don't have to eat as much. Now you go into the Kimberling City area. I fished Kimberling and the lower White River as well, and kind of the lower James last week too. So got a little bit of intel for all those areas. Again, the deep bite, the scuba spoon, the jigging wrap. If you're willing to commit to it, yeah, you can go out and catch a few fish. Same sort of deal. They're not way out there deep. Most of them are back in the creek arms. They're not out on the main lake, in treetops. Overall depth 38 to 60. Trees topping off around 35. And you got to work them. You just got to work at them and be slow. The stick bait bite was much better. We did really well with the Spromic stick. Caught a few on the Megabass Vision 110+1 as well. But this time of year, I personally prefer to throw the Spromic stick when the water's a little bit warmer. It has a wider swath. When you jerk it, it tends to dive harder to the left and to the right, and I feel like I get more bites on it. But definitely on those secondary points, rocky points, bigger rock mixed with gravel, bigger rocks mixed with small rock, and anywhere keeping the boat in about 25 to 30 and working that bait back, jerking it, giving it about a 5 to 8 second pause. Don't really have to let it sit all day long like you do when the water's cold.
And it's you know, we're coming up on a really, really good time of the year to catch these fish on a jerk bait. It's setting up just right for them. You know, we're seeing a few shad already kind of fluttering around trying to die, and that's what those bass are keying in on when they're, you know, when they really get in on that jerk bait bite. And again, like I said earlier, these fish they're in the early stages thinking about moving up. It's we still got a little ways, but hopefully if we get some nicer weather.
Can't get much nicer than this in February, but yeah, if the weather holds and it stays warm,
yeah.
You know, I know they're calling for rain and another cold snap to come in this weekend, but it doesn't look like it's going to hang on that long.
Right.
So that'll really get these fish moving and get things happening. Go up into the James. Like I said, I fished the lower James, made it up to about 0.12 is all the further up we made it. Didn't go way up. Maybe we should have. The best two bites, we didn't fish deep up there. Didn't even waste our time. Like I said, the deep bite's really tough. Until they shut this water off and either it gets colder or it gets warmer, we're going to struggle with this deep bite. But we did fish a jig, fish the Jewel Pro Spider jig, throw on the 7/16. Okeechobee Blue was a better color, but we did catch a few on Bass Whacker and a few on Table Rock Secret. Matching it up with the Speed Crawl was really the best trailer we had. And those fish are a little bit shallower, but they're not a lot shallower. You know, most of them on those secondary points, some of them on main lake points up there with the current. but rockier points, and most of them were in that 15 to 20. Some of them as shallow as about 12. But again, that bite is so soft. You really got to pay attention.
Yeah.
And make sure, you know, when you pull it off of a rock, make sure you're following that bait all the way down and not getting lackadaisical about it, because you'll miss half of the bites. And the bite can be tough. I mean, they're not really killing it. They're not hitting it hard. And when they do bite it, a lot of times they've just got it by the pinchers. They're not really eating the bait really good. So be prepared for that. Threw a stick bait up there as well. Caught a few on a stick bait. Probably would have done better with the stick bait if we'd gone a little bit further up the lake. But basically, we fished until about 10, 11 o'clock, and the wind started to pick up, so we thought we'd try a stick bait. Did manage to catch a few on the Spromic stick and a few on the Vision 110, but didn't knock the doors in on it. So really, I mean, if you're going to go up the James this week before the cold weather gets here, or if you're going to be brave enough to fish it in the cold weather this weekend, I'd definitely have a stick bait and have a jig tied on.
Yeah. One thing on that jig as well, Eric and I fished today on Bull Shoals, and you're going to miss a lot of bites, or some bites on that jig. If you set the hook, like Eric said, they're really lethargic right now. They're not. They may grab the pinchers, or you know, and so you're gonna have a lot of swing and misses. But if you miss one, let that jig fall back down there and set. A lot of times, especially a smallmouth, will come back and inhale it, pick it up, and pay attention to your line, pay attention to your bait in the water, because right now you're not going to get as many bites, so you want to capitalize on the ones you do get. So
White River, I fished the lower end of the White River, didn't quite make it to Big Creek. Fished up to about Big Creek last week. We did catch a few deep, but it was, I mean, again, the deep bite, you're going to have to work them. We stayed on one spot, one about 50-yard stretch of trees for about 2.5 hours to catch 6 fish. So don't think that if they're not biting right away, they're just not biting. If you want to commit to the deep bite, you can catch them deep. Caught them on the Jewel Scuba Spoon, caught them on the Rapala Jigging Rap, caught a few on the Demiki rig as well. Same deal as it is all over the lake. You know, overall depth of about 38, 40 foot out to about 55, 60. Fishing those treetops that top off right around 35. And I can't stress enough how important that is. That's the depth those fish seem to be comfortable at right now, is right around 35. You'll have a little school of shad come through, or something will get those fish turned on. You'll see them come to the top of the tree, and that's when you can catch a couple. But don't think you're going to load the boat right now until we get some sort of a change, either in the amount of current they're running or just the water temperature. It's going to be a tough deep bite. Did throw a stick bait up there, both the Spromic stick, Vision 110 +1. Did fairly well with it, and actually caught more fish on the main lake up there on the stick bait than we did back in the creeks, which is kind of contrary to the rest of the lake. But we weren't really fishing points. We were kind of keying on rocky transitions, bluff end transitions that had brush on them. If we had a little bit of brush or maybe a little bit of standing timber, it really seemed to hold those fish a lot better up the White River than just fishing a barren bank. Again, it's steeper stuff. Keeping the boat 25, 30, even 35 feet deep on some of these bluff ends, letting the bait sit for 5, 10 seconds, not much more than that. Really, it's not cold enough for you to worry about keeping it still for more than that. But usually working it out, jerking it down, letting it sit for about 5 to 10 seconds, getting a few bites doing that as well.
And one thing to add, Eric, is I know the deep bite is not great right now. When they shut this water off and things stabilize, look out. Eric and I have been out all winter, and we've got enough schools of deep fish found right now. If you guys are wanting to learn how to fish, use your electronics, deep fish, stay posted to his reports, and when they shut that water off and they start biting again, we're gonna try to do some more videos of those fish being caught out deep. But it is prime time when they shut that water off.
Yeah, that's when the deep bite's going to come back. They shut the water off, the deep bite's going to come back. It's just right now, and well, we've got this much current. It stretches the shad out. Sure. It scatters the fish, and it just makes it that much harder to catch these fish deep. So, You know, we've been trying other things and doing other things. What we're doing at Bull Shoals today is the other bite that we did fairly well with up the White River last week is fishing a jig.
Yeah.
You know, fishing the Jewel Pro Spider jig. Phil prefers the Jewel Finesse jig, but both of us are throwing a 7/16 because we're fishing deeper. And these fish are not on the bank.
Yeah.
They're out there in that 18 to 20, 25 foot. And, you know, late in the day, especially a sunny day like today with a little bit of wind, you might find them up there less than 10 feet deep. But on average, they're out there in that 15 to 20 foot range, and we're fishing Okeechobee Blue, Green Pumpkin Candy, Bass Whacker, Table Rock Secret. All those colors are working with a J-tail, with a speed crawl, with a beaver. Just let the weather dictate which trailer you're going to use. But we shot a little video down here on Bull Shoals, and we'll have that one out towards the end of the week. And we had a pretty good day today. I mean, we fished for probably 2.5, 3 hours, and had, I don't know, 6 or 7 keepers, and had one about 5, and had some other just solid 3-pound blacks, a nice smallmouth. So we'll get that video out later this week as well. And really, guys, if you want to fish a jig, both of us fish dual jigs, and we're more than happy to show you what we do.
Absolutely.
But guys, the weather is turning around. We're going to get through this last cold snap, I think, this week. The groundhog didn't see a shadow for the first time in forever. So
no kidding.
No more winter. Things are starting to happen. We're starting to get booked up. Phil and I work together. I know a lot of you guys who I've taken out before have gone out with Phil as well. You know, we work together on getting guide trips, and if I can't take you out, Phil will take you out, and vice versa. So guys, if you're thinking about hiring a guide, you want to come down and learn how to fish a jig, want to learn how to fish a stick bait, and like he said, when the water shuts back off and the deep bite turns back on, if you want to learn how to use your electronics and catch them deep, give me a call. It's Focus Fishing Guide Service. You can reach me at 417-860-4743. Hit my website, focusfishing.com. You shoot me an email, book online, whatever works out for you. If you shoot me an email and you want to fish with him, just note in the email, hey, I want to fish with Phil. Of course, he's from Arkansas. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching the videos. If you haven't subscribed, please take a minute and subscribe. But guys, thanks for watching. We can't wait to hear from you. We'll see you on the water.